I'll give you a bit of context. So we have been in recruitment for about 11 or 12 years now. Guys, if you could mute your thing, I'm gonna go get mad. Lovely.
Great,
All
thank
right.
you.
So we started out in Australia and did the typical big business agency thing, and remember wearing a suit and living in it beside my desk and just wondering what I was doing, why we were doing recruitment a certain way, and Charlotte was doing more of the internal side of things. We left Australia, went to Canada, did the usual billing management stuff within agencies, and then we had enough and decided to set up our own agency, and we did that from Guatemala. And we were doing that for, I think it was about 4 or 5 months, and we moved back to Europe. We traveled around Europe. Then all of a sudden business got a wee bit more serious. We had a kid. I had to work out a way of getting Charlotte, getting all her skills out of her and into somebody else. I got into listening to the 4-hour work week and wanted to apply that to recruitment. So back in 2000, I think 15, I could be wrong. Yeah. We hired our first VA, Andrea, who's still with us, and runs our actual VA to recruitment agency business or line of business that we work at the moment. So in the process of getting her on board and getting Charlotte out of the business and making the business still work, and then adding more heads as we went along, there's loads of detail, and we're going to cover some of that today in how you can do it in your business. So also throughout that process, I set up the Recruiter Startup podcast, and that gave me access to interviewing all the best people in our industry and really just getting under the skin of what's bullshit, what's not, what works, what doesn't. And that led me to meeting a guy called Andy Hallett in the pandemic. He came in as an advisor, and we started working together, and we set up RecWired. So we went from learning about VA to getting into the media stuff, to setting up a community, to now running events, doing chalks, having an advisory practice. And over the past year, we've coached 70 companies, and Charlotte has 5 enterprise level clients as well, where she goes in and knocks around some big to make sure that the businesses are systemized, are operationally sound, and are doing what they're supposed to do. So that's a bit of a rundown, and I appreciate it's a bit of a quick rundown on what we do. What we'll cover today are some of the highlights of what we take people through on the 6-month Mastermind course, and what you can expect from them. And then I'm happy to do any Q&A that you guys have on things that you think you're struggling with in your recruitment business, that we could help with whether that's tech, marketing, hiring internally, international, all the stuff that we cover over our 6-month program. Okay, I'm going to pause.
You breathe for a minute. Cool. I'm just going to ask anyone who isn't on mute, if you want to go ahead and just mute yourself. That would be great. Just avoid any of that background noise. So look, in regards to the course, still kind of go through in a bit more depth around all the areas that we cover, but I think 2 key areas that we kind of get asked a lot for, and that's from both our enterprise sort of clients, but also people on the Mastermind course itself, is really around that tech element. So how do I get the right rec tech for my business? How do I make sure that it's really providing those efficiencies that I should have and offering automation in the right places, but then also virtual assistants. So looking at sort of both of these, and before we look at both of these, one of the key things that we really recommend, and is actually one of the sort of takeaways for people to do when they're on the course, is that we ask them to go away and map their recruitment process. So before adequately sort of assessing what kind of tech you need, or the tech that you have and it's fit for purpose against what you do, as well as virtual assistants and where they can sort of really impact your business, you have to have a proper understanding about your recruitment processes. And this is really everything from business development and marketing, so all of your activities surrounding that, candidate sourcing through to job on, through to placement and back office, because rec tech can really fit into all of those areas and functionality, as well as support from virtual assistants. So with rec tech as well, once you do identify your processes and you want to be as detailed as possible, as granular as possible, you then need to firstly audit the existing tech stack that you have. A lot of people see shiny new bits of tech or kit that get talked about. They make sort of relatively quick decisions on their tech and then come to regret it a little bit later because they've not thought of the broader implications of how it fits in the tech stack, but also the process changes that it will mean for their business. So we always encourage people in the first instance to have a look at what you have at the moment. So what's working, what isn't working, how much are you using of the existing tech stack? You know, you don't need to use 100% of the functionality if actually 60% of the functionality is getting you the right return on investment. And when we talk about return on investment, it's not just money, it's not just time. It could be that it streamlines a process, you know, it could be that it integrates easier. So, you know, it is making things more efficient. So there's efficiency related ROI. So we want to look at what we have at the moment already. We also really encourage people to understand about their contracts, the lengths of their contracts, their notice periods, because a lot of people don't know that and get kind of tied into recurring sort of agreements. And then the next part of the tech stack is looking at what is out there. So what have you not got? What areas could you be having automation through, or you could be streamlining? You know, are you using multi-channel messaging sequencing? Is that integrated into your tech stack? You know, are you using a job lead and candidate sourcing aggregator? You know, where can you get efficiencies through technology, and what's the right product for you? Because it's really important to understand that there is no ready-made tech stack. There is no, if you have this tech stack, this is the best tech stack and this will ensure your success. It's really dependent on your business, your divisional area, your geography, your skills, you know, what it is that you do, the ATS that you have, how you're going to interface with it, who's going to interface with it. There's lots of different elements. The biggest thing I can say around a tech stack though is never rush into any decisions. Audit what you have first and then do an assessment, a proper assessment against any new tech coming in.
That was quite a lot of detail.
I know, sorry.
So I suppose the tech stack's really important. It's also who's going to run the tech stack for you. So I don't like doing that. I mean, I don't like finding data. What I like is to be able to speak to candidates, clients, make those connections. And what I've tried to do is to build up an ecosystem of hiring virtual assistants that can handle a lot of that for me. So when you look at the average day of, especially an independent recruiter, like you have to be very clinical on the niche that you're going to be in. And once you kind of get to that point and you're working off the same data sets, you want to really have the assistants in your business sourcing as much possible for you to bring in those calls. So when you wake up in the morning, that you have your outreach has been done the night before by your VA. Maybe we've got 4 in the Philippines, we've got 4 in Eastern Europe, then we've got a marketing team that's quite dispersed. But if you can wake up in the morning and you have your inbox is full of appointments with candidates, with clients, you know that your MPC, if you're an American, or you're speccing out, all of that is systemized and done before you even get to work. Your job just becomes more fun because your diary's already there. You're not wondering what you're going to do. you're then you have your team meeting, hopefully, because one of the things about having a virtual team is you have to treat it like they're a team and not an outsourced function. If you treat it like it's an outsourced function, somebody else will treat it like it's team and steal them off you. And so we have like three team meetings a week, very structured. And as Charlotte said, if we take it back a step again, understanding your processes, documenting those processes, that's what's going to enable you to be able to train these people, to be able to get them to do the things in your business that you don't want to do. So think about it now. How many hours do you work a week? I'm betting if I was to go and pull up all the stuff that you're doing, I could figure out 25 hours that could be given to somebody who could be paid between $8 and $12 an hour. And then I'd be thinking, how much do you value your time per hour? Considering some of these are in high yield areas that get 20 grand fees. And a lot of people in the UK, what the average is about 8 to 11. So it's about boxing clever with your time, especially as an independent, and facilitating yourself to be as powerful an independent recruiter as you can be.
I think as well, like, so that is a big focus area for us when we talk about virtual assistants, and it is actually 2 topics on the course because it is a key focus area for people, is this importance around insourcing versus outsourcing. You know, I know a lot of people that have gone down the outsourcing route and it's not worked as successfully for them. And then they've switched to more of an insourcing model, and that's worked really well for them. And that exactly plays into what Dolta said there. It's about creating a virtual and remote-based team. So it's very much a team effort, a team culture. There's the same level of investment and training. You know, it is a lower cost resource, and that is kind of the main benefit and I suppose attraction to a lot of people. It allows them, whilst they might not be in a position to invest in a sort of local, more expensive hire, you know, it could allow them to test the waters with starting to expand their business and getting the support that they kind of need. But it comes with the same challenges. So it comes with that investment of time and effort and processes. And there is a good ability to, you know, across the freelancer landscape to find people who are experienced in recruitment, who are experienced in sourcing, who are experienced in sort of the key activities that VAs kind of really fall into. And on the course, we talk about the 5 main types of VAs and how you can transition from one or the other and all of those in quite a lot of detail. But you can get a good level of skill set. That said, just because someone sourced before doesn't mean that they're going to source the way that you want them to source or in the area that you've done or use the tools and technologies that you've had. I think that it really comes from the identification of mapping your processes to really highlight those core repetitive activities, you know, that we as recruiters do on a day-to-day basis. Right now, the candidate market is extremely scarce. The vast majority of pain points that we hear from people is, I need more candidates. I have lots of jobs on. I need more candidates. So, you know, having someone providing that extra level, doubling your efforts in terms of a sourcing perspective, you know, that can be a really big game changer in your business. And we had someone on the course actually the other day that's had their VA only 6 weeks, and they can already attribute a $15,000 fee to that. So it's a huge sort of impact that it can have on your business when done correctly.
And we've had loads of people who've taken them on and not done what we've said.
Yeah.
And that's even more common. And then and those type of mistakes are bringing somebody on and expecting them to be as good as you, or expecting to get results straight away. You have to treat this like you would treat a recruiter that you bring in and sit them beside you. So your training does need to be really strong, even if the person has experience.
I think as well, it's also sometimes people go, well, I want someone to come in and I want them to start speaking to candidates and qualifying candidates straight away and all of that. You know, that's quite hard to do, especially because as you're, you know, it's your business and the way you sell and represent your business, you know, you're going to be normally quite particular over how you want that done. Is that really the most time effective way that someone can be supporting you? Or actually, could it be that if they do more of the sourcing, more of the back-end coordination of interviews, adding things to the system and things like that, you would then have more time to speak to more candidates and do the influencing bit, which is actually what we as recruiters is kind of are as best at.
If I jump into the automation, automation's good, but it's only as good as your marketing and as strong as you are in your niche. So automation can fall into spam super easy. And sorry, you're just going to mute him.
Yeah, sorry.
One of the things what we try and take people through is we start off with a strategic plan, then we do go through the tech stuff, and then we try and get right into what their niche is and what their next niche is. So if you want to launch in America, if you want to launch in Europe, or whatever that is, if you just want another desk, we work with what the strategy is on that. Anybody who doesn't have a niche really needs to start thinking about it, because competition is really, really strong. But not only does a niche help you with your close percentage, with training new staff, because there's only so much you have to teach them. You're not starting again every time. It also helps with your marketing. So you can have a robust marketing plan based on your strategic goals. So if you are in a specific niche and you want to launch a podcast, and this is one of the areas that we take you through, is how to do that from scratch and how to create that in a way that will get you time with your clients or potential clients, that you can then take that content, use it in your media, use it as part of your sourcing, use it to build a community, use it to sell retainers, and really just using it to become that thought leader in your space. It's worked for us over a long period of time, and it is an investment. It's not something you can do straight away. But ultimately, that hour you get with them talking about their business, their goals, it aligns you to them publicly. So their competitors see it, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, they recognize you when you're there. And the candidates gives you more credibility when you're doing that. And once you get a few on, you can take to the next stage and the next stage and the next stage. And before you know it, you have a body of work that's evergreen. It's out there. People are listening to it. But if it's not in a niche, and if it's not specific, and if it's not well done, it's not going to work. So just like everything, it takes a lot of practice. But what we try and do is to help you build a brand and also a remote team to be able to facilitate all the marketing that needs to be done, all the sourcing that needs to be done, and all the tech automation that needs to be done to tie in the content, outreach, sourcing. And then obviously we've all the team management stuff as well that we take into account.
I think on the automation piece as well, one of the biggest things that people look for is they want to get more consistency in their business, whether that's consistency of marketing, consistency of follow-up, consistency of outreach, because again, as often a smaller size company, either a solopreneur or say there's a couple of you, you want to try and get out of the habits of the boom and the bust. And it's really hard to keep going with the same level of consistency when it comes to activities. But that's where automation and tech can really provide support and bolster your activities to give you that. And that's a really core area that people look for in regards to their tech stack and automation, is how can it actually help me maintain consistency of activity? Because then I know I'm going to be more consistent on my revenue and increase it.
All right, we could talk all day on this, guys. So ask us anything. Just raise your hand.
Or come off mute.
Come off mute. All
yeah,
right.
go for it.
How do I pronounce your name? Session?
Zishan.
Zishan.
Yes, hi. So I'm a solopreneur. I'm based here in Dubai. I run my agency. We specialize into digital marketing and a bit of tech. I'm still in a process of drilling down further into my niche. But one of the things I wanted to ask you was what process do you guys follow once you get a job, and how your VAs support you in that?
It's a good question. I'll probably leave it to you.
You want me to?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So basically it depends, because at the same time, your candidate should be really, or sorry, your VA should be really focusing on candidates both proactively and reactively. So ideally, your candidate should be building talent pools within your niche, which again is the benefit of having a more prescribed niche. So that way, when you're getting the jobs on, you have ready-made lists in your ATS system that you and your VA can then be contacting about that specific opportunity. So rather than getting into fresh searching every time when you get jobs on and being more reactive, you really want to utilize the VAs to be very proactive. So they're very defined and continually sourcing and continually outreaching within a specific vertical. And depending on how many VAs you have, specific levels or locations. Once obviously the job comes on though, and you find the candidate, ideally you would be doing the influential elements around qualification, getting the candidate's buy-in for the opportunity, etc. The VA then traditionally supports, and again, it comes down to you, your business, and how you want to run it. But in our business, would support with all of the CV formatting, gathering information, anything else we might need to give to the client. They'll do all of the interview coordination between the client and the candidate. They'll send all of the calendar invites. They'll send through the, interview confirmation emails. So they'll do all of that whilst looping us in the process. They'll schedule feedback calls with the candidate. So, interview was this morning at 10, we'll have a scheduled call to phone the candidate at 3. Hey, how did your interview go? So they do all of that coordination right the way through up to placement. Same with organizing client feedback calls, etc. They'll then help on the back end of the placement. So if there's any kind of references that need to be taken, any kind of documentation, and they're logging all of this in our ATS system as we go through the process as well. So they're moving the candidate through the ATS on the interview journey as they go. They will also be responsible as well for working with us as we're in that process to identify, well, where else can we be taking that candidate to market? So right now it is a candidate scarce market. You get a good candidate, you're going to want to sort of work them and make sure that your close rates are good on them. So it's going to be, where else can we send them? What other competitors have we got that we could be sending a blank profile to try and build a relationship and get things on with? So they work in kind of twofold: the continual sourcing within the specific niche, the actual sort of coordination, admin relation bits of the job placement, and then also helping with that assistance of market mapping and initial outreach from business development perspective.
That's a better answer than I could have given. But
Thank you.
I think you want to make it as simple as possible to begin with. So Charlotte's kind of giving you what the end goal is.
Yeah.
If you were to hire an astronaut, maybe you get them to do that in a few days, but it takes a while to get anybody trained up on all those things. Probably want to be thinking what's your biggest time saver that you can get going early. If you're a job board centric recruiter, then it's going to be data mining and working it within that. If you're LinkedIn centric, it's going to be messaging in your account as you, from messages you've scripted, hopefully using some good tool that helps you do a bit better. And then I think that the interview coordination is key. What you can't do is just abdicate responsibility. So you need to make sure that from a commercial standpoint, you're available to add value to the candidate and client, and make that little bit of magic happen in the middle via phone, and leave the email back and forth coordination to them. So you just need to map out what your existing candidate journey is from either reactive and proactive, and then figure out how much of that doesn't involve your influence. So I don't know how you work at the moment, but I'd say about 60% isn't influential. So you want to be thinking, what are the tasks within that 60% that I can give away initially? Now, over time, let's say you get somebody in Eastern Europe, for example, they're going to be absolutely able to transition into a 360 recruiter over time if you hire the right person. So but maybe somebody in the Philippines that doesn't have perfect English, might not. So they might end up doing 2 different jobs within your business. So it very much depends on what you're after and what you're trying to solve.
Mark, did you have a question?
I muted myself a few times to try and get in the pauses in between. So I guess it's slightly different on the reach out if you're in a market like placing recruiters or placing lawyers or something where there's basically, if you find a great candidate, there's always demand. If for example, I'm trying to place CFOs, so if I had a VA reaching out to a bunch of CFOs and saying let's connect, they come back saying, do you have a job for me? And what, she just goes no. Like what? How do you get them to just map out the entire market?
So in that instance as well, so often like virtual assistants within our team, they will be sourcing in mine and Dulce's accounts whilst they are building their own accounts at the same time. So they are leveraging sort of our brand. And again, it comes down to the positioning of how you reach out to people. So it could be, hey, I'm working on a number of exclusive senior level assignments at the moment. I would love to find out more about you though, and what your next career move is and what motivates you. Could we have a broader conversation about your career? So again, it's how you kind of approach the conversation, and it's changing the dynamic, I suppose, from a recruiter, hey, I've got some jobs on, like, can we have a chat? To, hey, I'm a consultant. I'd love to consult to you here on your career because I'm working with a number of clients, on an exclusive basis, and I'd love to see about whether there's any alignment. So it's kind of changing the dynamics of the conversation.
Also, though, if you are more job-led and let's say you're retained, what you want to be thinking is, what are my existing processes? So, right, like, Mark, what do you do right now when you get that job on? What are the next 5 things that happen?
Then I'll literally just go on LinkedIn, start searching for candidates, reaching out to them, saying got a job, doing initial calls, deeper interviews, arranging with the client. So I think pretty classic.
Okay, so if you're LinkedIn, you've got your search. What you want to be doing is just teaching them how to do that search so they can do it next time. But you want to have...
So I get that bit, but actually what Charlotte, you mentioned about not specifically doing searches, that sounded sort of quite interesting of just having a CRM, which or whatever you called it, with sort of 10,000 CFOs on it with their CVs and all that sort of thing. So I kind of get the VA engagement on a specific search. I'd love to connect with you, can I pass your details on to my consultant, something like that. But actually, when there isn't a specific search, and when it makes absolutely no sense to spend half an hour speaking to someone who you're not going to place maybe in the next year, but actually to get their CV and have it ready for when you do. I'm not sure if that's actually what you meant, or if I misunderstood what you were saying.
Well, so in more instances, we would still always encourage a conversation because it depends on the level of the candidate that you'd be speaking to and the information that you get from them. Because when you have a conversation with someone, there's always, or should be, a drive to a commercial outcome. So whether or not it's I'm going to place them, it's could I place someone with them? Do they know someone else that might be available? Could I get referrals from them? Have they interviewed at a company in the last month that they didn't like and I could get those details? So you don't want to be having conversations with everyone, but of a certain avatar that is good for your area, it's always worthwhile having those networking conversations.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. Going back to my old days, just trying to do placement after placement rather than, you kind of get stuck in a cycle sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you can definitely get them lead list building in the ATS at the same time. So again, they don't necessarily need to have an outreach. Hey, can I have a call? It could just be that they're sending a connection request. Hey, it'd be great to connect. Hope you're having a good week or whatever, but they're still building a lead list in the system so that when you do get that job opportunity, you're going straight into the ATS and you're going, great, here we go. I've got a ready-made list that I can now use my automation to go through and go, I've got this opportunity. Could we have a chat now? That sort of thing.
And then in the ATS, you just have not necessarily their CV, but it'll just say, Tech Recruiter London.
Yeah, exactly. You get really nice niche with your folders, lists, whatever your ATS equivalent is. But yeah, it would be, Tech Recruiter London Java, Tech Recruiter London, whatever. You try and get it as niche focused so that when you go in, you've got 20 people there you can start banging through.
Yep. Thanks for that very comprehensive answer.
All good. Yes, Sylvia.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm also like entrepreneur, single entrepreneur, and yes, I'm also from Dubai.
Ah,
Yes, like, to say that. And I specialize in tech. I'm like in the moment of trying to more narrow to my niche. I have an idea about like what I'm gonna specialize in. But my question is in terms of the VA. So when you're building your database, how do you do it? Do they use their own LinkedIn profiles, or like they're using some dummy profiles? How do you do this? And because you use them for some time, if they're building on their own, but at some point they decide to leave you, then your database is gone, or
no.
how do you set up this process?
Sure, yeah. So you've got different types of VAs, firstly. So you can use one-off standalone data entry VAs where you can go and purchase and bulk buy data that you can then upload into your ATS system or put into an automation tool for multi-channel messaging sequencing. So you've got sort of standalone VAs you could use in that capacity. If you're looking at someone who's doing sort of sourcing and actual recruiting efforts for you, this is where we come back to the insourcing versus the outsourcing. So you really want to kind of have them as part of your business, represented as part of your business. You want them interfacing with your ATS. So that way, whilst they're sourcing perhaps in your account and building their own account, all of the information that they're building in their account is also going into your ATS, and it's going into those lead lists and everything like that. So it does provide some buffer that if down the track they go, okay, hey, it's not for me, all of the activity, all the work that they've been doing is in your ATS system, and it's all there accessible for you.
It's a really good question, though.
It is a good question.
I think it's something that we learned over time. We did spend some time helping build some brands of people who are no longer with us. So I think I'm really, when for the first 6 months that people are with us now, I don't let them in their account. It's just in mine. And I'm really like hot on what they're sending, who they're sending to, how many they're sending, what the outcomes were, what have they learned from it, what is the response when this happens. So what you want to do is create all these rules, and then over time they get to know the rules better, and then you take it to the next stage and the next stage and the next stage, and then you're on your paddleboard having fun while people are doing your work for you.
Mark's good question in there. He was asking around the implications with LinkedIn. So you do need to look at using a technology like a VPN and asking them to log in via VPN, so they're showing as the same location as you. You'll probably want to look at something called LastPass or an equivalent. So it's like a safe way of sharing passwords. So you're not having to provide them with passwords, but they still get access through the LastPass system. So there's various different ways that you can do it from that perspective.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Absolute pleasure. Anyone else? A question? Look at that.
Yeah, I
Matt.
do.
I want to ask something. What is the, I don't know if you share it now, or maybe you send us some information later on, but in general, what is the price of the masterclass?
I'll send it later. We've got a couple of options, because we've got an option for that'll have more of our time, which is us fixing your business, and then we've another option which is more group led. That might be a bit more cost effective. So we're going to launch the next platform very soon. That we've put. So we've coached 70 startups and all the bigger business stuff that we've done, and all the stuff that we've done in our own business, and we're getting it all on this platform, and then we're going to continually update the platform as we go. So it's been a bit of a journey to get it all right, because we've done, out of those 70 people, we've done all live sessions. So there's going to be people who are better at things than I am and Charlotte is, and every time that happens in a session, what we do is we incorporate it into the next learning, and so the course has got better and stronger, and we've tried to take it from a learning perspective as much as a giving perspective as well. So I'll come back to you on it. There's a long wind of saying that, but we have different pricing options and different ways of length of getting it done and all the rest. Matt.
Yeah, your new course, I think, starts at the beginning of next week, I believe.
Yes.
when is the next one after that? Because I'm not around to start that quickly. In fact, I'm on holiday next week. Yeah, when would be the next course that you'd be running after this one?
So with the new platform, I think we'll probably mix up it a little bit. I think we'll be able to like not be date specific. So I think we're going to be able to get people in as and when. So come back to me on it.
Sure.
Where are you going on your holidays?
I'm going to the Canary Islands. But I think, as Charlotte knows, I'm 6 months away from really launching. So I mean, I'm the brief chat I've had with Charlotte before was obviously I'm to coin a phrase, I'm a greenfield site, so I don't have a CRM to move from or to, so that's why I'm obviously enjoying my chats with you, trying to find what is the sort of best of breed or best in class solution or mixture of bits of tech to source well with Loxo, source well with something else or whatever it might be. So I'm just trying to do this better than I did many years ago, where I set up the company and then started looking at the tech and then started looking at the website. And this time I'm trying to reverse engineer that so that I get it all done while I'm in stealth mode. I'm saying that jokingly, stealth mode. I don't really want to use that phrase, but yeah, I want to be in a position where in 6 months I've done the coursework with you guys. The website's ready to go. I know who the financing people are. I know who the VAs are going to be, or where they're going to come from, blah, blah, blah. But in reality, I am on holiday next week. So I would probably, I know you said it's a 6-month course. I think you did. I wouldn't mind probably starting it in a couple of months from now when I'm a little bit further along with what I'm doing. In fact, I'm probably going to take a little bit of a break from this and then pick this back up in a couple of months, to be very honest with you. Because I've been on this for the last 6 weeks fairly intensely, looking at demos and stuff. But yeah, okay, yeah, let's stay in contact if that's okay.
Yeah, and look, I know your background, so when people like you come on the course, I bleed you for information as well.
Yeah, all right. Stroke my ego.
Yeah. but it's true. You've been there, you've done it, you're reinventing yourself. So we learn loads off you as well. So we're keen to work with you.
It's a big thing as well, because the interactions that we have, it's not just the group sessions, but there's the ongoing sort of WhatsApp groups and things like that. And there's a lot of sort of peer-to-peer learning elements in it. And it's quite cool actually seeing that quite a few of them now, they have like, even though they've finished their course, they've continued to have like a catch up once a month, or like continue to go for beers and have that sort of thing. So it's really about sort of that community element as well.
Yeah, so we obviously have the sessions every 2 weeks. What we'll have is we'll have Q&As happening quite often. We have a specific WhatsApp group. We also we'll also have like founder roundtables, and we have special guest sessions. So I go out there, find the best people in the world to come in and speak, and they'll do Q&As. So whether that's like Rich Rosen or Joe Mullings or Dan Alexander for sales training, or Barry for anything legal, what we do is we try and just tap into that network of people we know their stuff, because there's so many people full of shit in our industry. And to avoid that is one of the key things. I'm sure you know that, Matt.
I don't know if you're referring to me there. No, sure. Yeah, I do know that, of course.
So that's it, guys. Thank you for joining. We'll send some information. And if you're not in the dinghy, please come on in there. That's our free community. So yeah, and thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks very much, guys. Lovely to meet you all.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for hosting, Jules, Charlotte.
Bye. Bye.